You have to have an understanding of light if you remotely want to pick up a camera and get a decent photograph. Now, yes, lighting is everywhere. We see the result of it. We look around, we see light coming through a window, we see light from car headlights, we see bulbs in the roof of our house. Doesn't matter what it is. If it illuminates, you can use it in a photograph. One of the easiest ways to start off in your photography journey is using window light. Window light is just easy. Light's coming from outside, it's flooding into your home, and it's a great way of starting off and getting great photographs. I want you to understand light by likening it to water. Now let's talk about that for a moment. So if you're like me, you wake up, you're going to go into the shower, and what you'll do is you'll turn the shower on, and then you'll take your pajamas off, whatever it is you wear or don't wear, and then you'll put your hand underneath the water and make sure it's actually warm before you jump in. Well, you'll notice that even though the water was warm, as you walk into that particular shower, the fringes of that particular water, the end pieces, are quite cold on the skin. Why am I giving this analogy? Well, just like water that wraps and envelops you, like if you're going to an expensive hotel, for example, and you've got this big shower head and the water is enveloping your body, it's very luxurious and soft to the skin. But on the edges of that water, it can be quite cold. I don't know what that phenomena is or why it happens. It just is what it is. So if you go next to a window, think of like the water, the light is flooding the person, and depending on where the person stands next to the window, where you stand in relationship to the subject, how big or small that window is how that light is going to affect that person. So there are things that I'm going to recommend with the male form, the female form, again, if you identify that way, and we're going to twist the body in certain ways, and you'll see the result of the light on the person by simply turning them. So I want to explain this to you this way. For example, if you're outdoors in full sun, we can liken the sun to a high pressure hose. So the sun is massive, it is enormous, but if you were to look at the sun with those eclipse glasses, it's actually quite small relative to the subject. In other words, it's a high pressure hose really, really far away, and it really hits and penetrates your face. Then when the water, the light doesn't hit your face, we call that a shadow. It's very dramatic. The gap between a highlight and shadow is massive. Very deep, dark shadow and a very, very strong highlight light on your face. So if you're using a bigger light source like a window, the shadow will not be so deep because it's a bigger light source relative to where the subject is. So let me explain that a little bit further by bringing Sarah into the photograph and showing you perhaps a foundation of the female pose in relationship to the window. Okay, let's get you in. Okay, so if you can just stand there, just come back a little bit there for me. Turn your body towards that light. Perfect. Keep on going that way. A few little shuffles back and a bit further away from me. If you're photographing someone next to a window for the very first time and you weren't overthinking about it, you're not a photographer, but you want to use the light coming from a window, you would obviously turn the subject, in this case Sarah, towards the light. Now let's have a look at the way the light is falling on her body, and more importantly the way the shadows are falling on her as well. So you turn the body towards the light, and what we're doing is we're flooding her with that water. And I'm telling you right now that that's not what I recommend that you to do, especially when you're photographing the female form, and especially someone who's say 16, 17 and 18 plus. Because you want to bring out curves and you want to bring out those shadows. So let me show you what that means. So now let's pretend you're on a lazy Susan. So stand flat-footed for a moment. So don't worry about the pose for anything like that. Now watch what happens as she very, very gently and slowly lazy Susans this way. Okay, so let's look at her. Okay, so turn your body towards me. Keep on going, stop there. Okay, perfect. She is perfectly front onto me, but you'll notice now we have a shadow on the cleavage, on the middle of the dress, and then as she turns her body this way, you can see how we see more of a shadow on her bust, and keep on turning your feet along with your body, and we see shadows on the middle of her dress. So my recommendation to you is that if you are photographing the female form and someone who identifies as female and who has curves and busts, who wants to amplify the bust, is you might start. It's either you start in the shadow or you start in the light. But let's start towards the light. Let's get you there. And again, let's turn your body this way, lazy Susan. See the shadow on the cleavage? Stop there. Okay, so now what we do is, and if you've skipped ahead or gone forward or back with our posing, we are going to point her left, so towards me, slide the heel back in, bend that knee in. You can just hold your hands in front of you like that, just right and down, beautiful. Then turn your shoulders a touch. Now, lean your chest towards me, and now your face tilt, and then turn your face into the window. Beautiful. So now we have a really great foundation of photographing the female form. Nothing fancy, but you need a foundation to get it right. No different than playing golf, for example, and someone says, hey, go hit a golf ball. You have to learn how to hold the golf club and just take your time and breathe and slow down. Think of this as that foundation. Bring that knee more over. Beautiful. And then you can bend those wrists up a little bit, like do that for me. Like that. And then bring them down. Good. And tilt. That's it. Now the body's looking fantastic and the face is looking good too, but keep your body there. Turn your face that way. Okay, so you see how the lighting is hitting one hand side of her face. We call that split lighting. In essence, we call that broad lighting. Broad lighting means we're actually photographing her on the light side of the face. More important than the terminology that's been popularized by professional photographers is just knowing the effect that it has on a face and when do you do it and when don't you do it. So in this case, what I do is I'll start with her face away from the light. This is not as flattering. It's usually good for a guy's face. I'm not saying you don't look good in this shot, but we're looking at her face, so just hold it there. Okay, in fact, just really quickly, let's just go back for a second, flat-footed towards the light like this, and then that's it. Perfect. Now come towards me. Good. Turn the body this way again, and then let's do that same thing again. Beautiful, and then open up the shoulders towards the light a little bit, and then lazy Susan this way a touch. But bring that knee in. Beautiful, lean the chest forward. Good, and now turn your face that way. More. Turn your face that way. Good, and then turn your face this way. Good. That's it, beautiful, hold it there. Okay, so look at the progression of what we've done here. Okay, so we have Sarah, flat towards the window. It's okay. Then we turn her body away from the light. In fact, we're photographing her front on, but the light comes from the side, giving us a bit of shadow on the bust. Then as we pose her a little bit, we're bringing her arms off her body. We have separation between the arms and the waist, therefore giving her more shape, but her face is actually away from the light. As she turns her face and keeps on turning, you can very clearly see the difference between this beautiful highlight shadow that gives us depth, dimension, and she looks absolutely incredible. Let's go close up now and see how that light affects the face in a little bit more detail. Okay, so we talked about turning the body away from the light and the face back in. Certainly that applies still. Right now you could even see that shadow on her cleavage. Great, but let's go a little bit more detail with the face. So let's do this. Let's turn your face this way and then turn your face towards the light. Okay, do me a favor, put that hair behind your ears. Remember what I did. The face was away from the light and then I turned the face back in. In fact, let's do that in succession. So just turn your face that way, stop there. Okay, so this is called broad lighting, as in we're just photographing on the broad side, the light side of her face. Okay. Go even further, like your face, that's it, just there, hold it. I mean, she gets away with it. She's got a gorgeous face, but we just got to play. We want to give ourselves common denominators, what suits most people most of the time to get a decent result. So now what we'll do is turn your face front onto me, just like that. That's it, good, hold it there for me. Straight portrait, right? At least we have some shadow and depth and dimension. There's something going on there, but this is the way perhaps you photographed before this course. We need a bit more finesse. So you may have heard me talk about before, turn the body away from the light and the face back in. Doesn't mean we can never turn the body towards the light. In fact, if I do that, I do it so much that we turn her body that we're now getting a shadow on the middle of her arm and her back. So let's do that. So turn your body completely towards the light source and then bring your shoulder right in. There we go. So you sort of see how now we're getting that shadow. We are still shooting on the shadow side. Now, if I come back a little bit, I'm actually exposing the curvature of her bust, which looks good too. And I'm going to just turn her face this way and then chin to the shoulder a little bit. That's it. Now, do you see how this lazy Susan this way? So there we go. Okay. Now we're very clearly shooting on the shadow side of her face. In fact, we've created it. So let's take a shot just like that. Gorgeous. Let's do that. Beautiful. Hold it. Eyes just here, so we get the catch lights enveloped in your iris, the color of your eyes. Gorgeous. A little bit more in the face, not so fierce, just happier. There you go. That's it. Just that nice little balance there. Gorgeous. You blink there. We'll do another one. Perfect. So what you want to do, whether it's male or female, turn the face towards the light source until the eye socket that wasn't in light is completely enveloped by the light. Depending on the face and the mood and the drama that you want to create, you can change it accordingly. Now, a very popular and common way of actually photographing anyone for that matter, especially the female face, and ideally even aging face, or whether you have someone with pimples or anything like that. We call this flat lighting. Lighting is flooding the person. It's flooding the person. Let's have a look at the difference between the texture of her skin and her face, as in going from this photograph, and now let's see us using flat lighting. So we have light from the window flooding behind me, and now it's just flooding her face. This is a soft, quite flattering way of photographing somebody. It really depends on what you're trying to say. Now, luckily, we're not really masking her gorgeous freckles there. We're still seeing them. All we want to do is we're just creating less shadow by shooting with the light coming from behind us and onto the subject. So let's take that quick little shot. Look at the difference between that and that. This, you would say, is probably almost pedestrian. It's almost like we do this all the time. Even many of us have been using an iPhone or a smart device for the past decade or even beyond. We've all learnt that if we turn our face into the light source, it's going to be more flattering. It's softer. A lot of women would like to be photographed this kind of a way. Personally, I love the drama of shooting on the shadow side. Whether it's a guy or a girl, doesn't really matter. If I am photographing someone older or someone, again, let's say with aging skin or creases or blemishes, this is just a flattering way of doing it. But it's crazy how we can simply change the direction of where the person is in relationship to the actual lighting and where we are in relationship to the subject, and we get a completely different look and feel. Okay, so we photographed Sarah, now we're photographing Jackson. So we photographed the female form, beautiful curves, gorgeous shadows on the bust and on the body and all that kind of thing. Whereas now, how do you photograph a guy? Well, let's actually photograph Jackson in a similar way as we did Sarah, and let's see if it works for him. So let's do the end way. So we turn the body a bit this way. So put your hands in your pockets, just give yourself something to do. Just bend that front knee a little bit. That's it, just hang your body. That's it. Now bring your chin to your shoulder. Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, and then eyes back at me. So you can see how his chin to the shoulder that's close to the camera and towards the light, it just gives us a slightly feminine vibe. So what we're going to do now is, like, his chin is to his outer shoulder. It's quite a soft feminine vibe. What we're going to do now is his face is not going to move, and he's going to turn his body towards the light. So let's do that. Keep your face there. Keep on going, turn your body that way. Good, and then just do this for me. That's it, good. And just sort of stand up straight for a moment, and then come a couple of steps back. And then just hang your body towards the light, and then turn your face this way. And go a little bit straighter there for me. That's it, good. All right, let's just go nice and close so we sort of get the idea of what we're doing. So remember, you photograph the male form, turn the body towards the light source. Am I saying this is an absolute? No, of course not. There are rules in photography, there's rules in everything. What I'm trying to give you in this particular course is common denominators. Where do you start? Where do you begin with a particular photograph and a particular kind of subject matter according to the light that you have? So with the female form, I turn the body away from the light and the face back in. With the male form, I normally turn the body towards the light. So this is an ordinary window. It broadens him, makes his chest and shoulders look bigger, and then I keep his face in the exact same way, pretty much, that I did with Sarah. So let me just photograph you like that. Perfect. Hold it. Bring your shoulders more this way. And just lazy Susan with your feet, so your feet come around, and just hang your body more this way. And then turn your face this way, turn your face more. Good. You can see what I've basically done is I've actually turned his body slightly towards the camera, which just broadens him up a little bit. If you, let's say, had a plus-size guy and you want to slim him up a little bit, then don't have him square to the camera. You can go on the side there. But in this case, Jackson's very slim, so I'm actually getting him to broaden him up a little bit and keep his face that way. So let's just do another shot here. In fact, keep your face there, and let's do what we did before. We're going to turn your shoulders this way. Keep on going, and then turn your face back in a bit more, and then eyes back at me. Good, hold it. So have a look at the difference. Boom, boom. I'm not saying I never do that with a guy. I'm saying I usually start like that, or perhaps even like this. It's a cooler way of doing it. So we have the light coming through a window, and it's basically hitting Jackson's face. Okay, so you see how one side of his face is lit and the other side is not? Us professionals call that split lighting. We're splitting the light. Shadow, highlight. This is considered a very masculine sort of look. It's quite harsh, it's quite dramatic. Traditionally, I would do this on the male face, not so much on the female face. Again, it depends though what you're trying to say about the subject. Do you want something more dramatic? This is what you do. Male or female, doesn't really matter. But it's got a bit of a badassery to it. We've got a nice sort of edge feel here. So let's just hang your face a bit more towards us, shoulders, and just tilt this and get a bit of, that's a good, yep, I like that brow pressure that you did. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn his face more into the shadow. So just turn your face that way and turn. So you see how we're split lighting him, as in light on one side, light coming through a window, and shadow on the other side, but we're shooting bias more on his light side. Okay, we call this broad lighting. More important than what photographers call them and what's been popularized is what it does to the face. Okay, so just like that. Good. Hold it there, mate. Hold it. Good. Tilt this way and chin forward. That's it. Good. Hold it there, mate. Hold it. It's good. Okay, so now my favorite way of photographing is turning the face into the light until currently the eye that's in shadow gets into light. So we're going to do this very, very slowly so you can see what I'm talking about. So very gently, just mirror me. Okay, so right now you're like this. So turn your face like that. Now, very slowly, just you're going to mirror the shape of my hands. Okay, so watch this. We turn his face, turn. Do you see how his camera left eye, his right eye gets in light? Stop there. You see how currently his right eye, camera left, is in light, but not completely. I want his complete eye socket in light. Let's do that. There it is. So you see the crease of the eye socket. I say eye socket so you know it's enveloping that eye. So now I'm shooting him bias to the shadow side of his face. In photography terms, it's called the short side. Just think of it as the shadow side, okay? Let's do that. Good, hold it there. Now in this case, you see that the catch lights in his eyes are in the whites of his eyes, the sclera. Now you either live with that, or I take a couple steps to the left, my left, or I get him to look off into the light. So I'm going to get him to look at my hand. So you see how the catch lights, one second, let's do that again so we can, so look at me for a second. So you see how the catch lights are going from his iris and the whites of his eyes. He's going to look at my hand here and watch as he turns his eyes. Now his eyes completely envelop that catch light. That looks really cool. So we're going to take a shot like that right there. Give me that little hint of a squint that you've mastered already. That's awesome. Hold it. Remember that hint of a squint that I've often referred to, that it basically some tension on the under eyes. You go from passive to that little bit of a tension. It adds a bit of mystery. It breaks the monotony of a stare. and you'll see this popularized. Even movie stars will walk down the red carpet and do this. It just adds that sex appeal to a shot and breaks the monotony of that stare. So you can clearly see we're actually photographing Jackson on the shadow side of the face. And what I've done now is I've actually positioned the background a little bit further and a bit more into shadow. It adds a bit more drama. So let's take this shot. Great. Hang your body a little bit more and your eyes just here. Give me a little hint of a squint. That's it. Hold it. Okay, so now he's going to stay exactly where he is, and I'm going to just basically change the position where I'm at, and you'll see how we get a completely different result. So he stays exactly where he is. I'm going to move around a little bit. Completely different look. Check that out. All I did was change my angle. Both look really cool. Now, I'm going to change my angle dramatically from this bias, almost where your camera is right now, and shoot this way. Let's do that. So all I've done is I've actually changed the position of where the camera was on me on that previous shot. I'll take a shot here. Look how sharp that is, but check this out. He stayed exactly where he was. We get this shot, and that shot just by moving position. So never underestimate the power of actually leaving your subject there, and you're the lazy Susan, so to speak, going all around the subject. Now you change your angle, you change your lens choice, all those different things, you get a completely different result. For now, learn to just hover around your subject and see what you get. I've just moved to a different part of the living room that I'm actually photographing at right now. And all I have is basically two windows. He's in the corner of a particular room, as you can see. You've got a window onto his right, and we've got a window from behind. So in this case, we don't have the full sun hitting the actual wall, penetrating that water as we discussed through a window. So the lighting, the water is not so strong. It's just residual light, just this circumstantial light that's coming through the window. It's not as strong. As in the difference between highlight and shadow is not so great. So let's just take a shot just very quickly like that, and then I'm going to show you something really cool that you can play with, perhaps in the corner of your living room as well. Okay, so just turn your face that way, mate. Good, hold it there. Good, give me a little hint of a squint again. That's awesome, hold it. Okay, so light hits on one side, it's actually illuminating both eye sockets, and watch what I do now. In fact, you can see very slight evidence of it. If you look at his jawline, you see a little bit of light hitting his jaw. Watch this. So this particular light is going to hit here, and that light's coming through this way. So now we've got this beautiful two directions of light, no different than watching a photographer photograph a professional shoot. You're using two light sources, but you can do this in the corner of one of your rooms. Check that out. Look at the depth and dimension on his face, looks amazing. And tilt this way, mate, chin up a little bit. That's it, give me that little hint of a squint there again. Good, hold it. Good, love that. Now watch this. I'm just gonna actually block out these blinds, and you'll see the effect of that light even more so. Hold it there. Look at the difference. Crazy, right? Something so simple. So remember, you have a corner of your room. Every house will have this, whether it's a bedroom, a study, a living room. Use the window light, flooding the person, and then open up that window from behind, and you get a cool shot just like that. It's interesting, as we're about to change the whole look and feel of what we're doing and what we're going to teach, Jackson sort of just relaxed and sort of turned his face. And it's interesting, I really like this for him. He's got a narrow face, so he gets away with that lighting coming from the side and lighting that side of his face. And even though it's typically not a pose that I would normally do, it's sort of quite a passive pose. It actually, he just came into his own. He just felt sort of quite comfortable, and it's quite intriguing, so I like it. So let me just take that shot. And that's what I want you to do, is just keep an eye out that, yes, you can create a shot from scratch. You can light someone, you can pose someone, you can put them where they are, but don't forget that in between photographs, in between you changing a lens, in between you moving around or anything like that, observe human nature as it is. Now, right now, I might simply say to him, hey, love what you're doing, but turn your face to the light, or love what you're doing, but I'm going to change my angle. So it's just a really good lesson learned that not everything has to be orchestrated from scratch. Allow yourself and your subjects a little bit of freedom. You wouldn't get shots that you would normally get if you just didn't give yourself that freedom. So make sure that you allow for that breathing space. Oh, he's looking good again. Hold on. This always happens. Okay. Good, man. Hold it there. Good. Hold it. Just peer your eyes out this way. Give me a hint of a squint. More. That's it. Good.